Hey guys, so in this video, I'm going to be touching on a topic, a taboo topic, which a lot of entrepreneurs suffer with, which is porn addiction. And I've written a lot of articles for entrepreneur.com. And the one article that was refused, which frustrated me quite a bit, was about porn addiction. And it frustrated me because working with so many men, working with so many clients, this is the constant theme that comes up. So in this video, I'm going to help you to understand it. If you are someone that has a porn addiction, if you suspect that your partner is addicted to porn, it's going to help to give you some relief, and so that we can start to move forward. Now, in sharing this video, I also want to be transparent and share that I have been through porn addiction myself. So I'm not coming from a place of someone who's just talking about this topic and has not experienced it. And so during this video, I'm going to talk about my personal experience, but just understand that it's different for everybody. Now, first of all, to me, the definition of addiction is something that you can't stop. And so just be aware of that, because sometimes actually something isn't an addiction. But if you're hearing this video, then most likely it may be because of the topic. So an addiction is something that we can't stop. And also the opposite of addiction is connection. So once we start to understand this, that at some level we are disconnected from something, could be a number of things, I'll cover that in this video, then also we can start to get some relief around that. So for me, my lack of connection through my addiction happened because of the trauma of my bullying, and therefore I was high anxiety, high stress. And so I got into an addiction pattern. Now, that addiction pattern for me was alcohol, which led to smoking, which led to drugs, which led to gambling, which led to porn. So for me, there was a sequence. So oftentimes when porn is involved, there are also other addictions involved in the sequence, in the pattern. So that's also something to be aware of. I'm also going to cover the P, the O, the R, the N today in this order, and explain a little bit about that. And that's going to open your eyes into also a number of other areas. So for me, when I was at my low is when I used porn. So for example, I had gone out drinking, and then on the come down in the days afterwards, because I was low, I was wanting to get that dopamine hit. So oftentimes when we are feeling low about something that's happening, it could be a relationship, it could be something in our business, we are going for that hit. And therefore, when we get that hit, we need it again and again, and we need it more, and we need it more. And this is why cocaine, for example, can become very addictive, and other substances, it becomes a habit. So the question then becomes, well, how do we start to break this cycle? Well, the cycle is controlled by the ego, the false self. So we've got who we are, and then who we are moving towards, and peeling back the layers. And so when the ego has hold of us, we need to start to become aware that we need to take back control. So the P in the PORN is powerless. Oftentimes when we are going to porn addiction, we feel powerless in a situation. And so we feel when we get that dopamine hit, we get our power back. But actually, over the long term, we become more and more disempowered. And so my job when I'm working with a man, when I'm working with someone that has porn addiction, my job is to get their power back, which means stripping away of the ego and actually starting to regain connection with self. Emotional intelligence and energetic intelligence, that comes through going inward versus being out there and trying to go for things to feel that connection instead of going inward. And we don't want to do that because we don't want to feel the feelings of all of the things that we want to shove down. So first of all, understand that if you want to kick that porn addiction, actually any addiction out there, then you want to start to understand that this is about you reclaiming your own personal power and being in that power. Now, really, what also that means is charging up your energy. And when that energy is high and you're running on that full battery, then you're not going to want to go to these certain things. And oftentimes the illusion that's created is that we have a full battery when actually we don't. Okay. The next one is ownership. If we want something to change, we have to take ownership of that. Not saying, oh, well, I'll change it tomorrow. It's a commitment. Do you want it to change? Yes or no? So that's about taking ownership and saying, I I want this to change. This is not something I want in my life because it's destructive. Now, it may already have caused some destruction in your life, but what we want to start to do is to bring back your power so that you can get things back on track, and maybe reconnect something that's been disconnected. Oftentimes that's in a personal relationship, and I'll come into more about that in a moment. So it's about regaining power, taking ownership, and actually just owning it and saying, hey, I have this. This is something that I have. It's about holding your hand up, right? You go to an event and a lot of people, they just don't want to hold their hand up, or you're being called to something, but you just don't want to admit it. It's actually strong, and it's actually very masculine to hold your hand up and say, hey, I'm not perfect. This is what I got going on, and I'm going to deal with it. It's very, very powerful to do that. So all of these are actually linked together. Taking ownership is about reclaiming power. It also takes courage, and that is strength to have courage versus to be in the victim of it. Because often what the addiction will do is it will put you into that victim mentality. The other thing to understand about porn addiction is that we need to let go, which is to let go of the resistance. A balloon cannot rise if there are weights holding it down. And so once we start to get to the root of the addiction, for example, in my life, it was through the childhood bullying. Once I started to deal with that, a lot of things started to fall away. And then it doesn't become something that we're trying to stop. It's just not part of who we are. And so oftentimes I just work with someone for a week or two, and then suddenly they're telling me, I just don't have that desire anymore. Why? Because I understand how the mind works, and also how to connect somebody with themselves to become conscious. And as we start to raise our consciousness and our self-awareness, then we start to regain our power and transcend, break through the thing that actually we don't want to be in our life, because we know that where I'm going, I don't need this here. Where I'm shooting to, I don't need this here. Where I'm deciding to be in my life and what I want to have in my life, this can't be part of my life, because I want this to be healthy. I want this relationship to be healthy. I want this business to be healthy. The next one, so we got powerless, we got ownership, we've got resistance, getting to the root. Sometimes it's, we use a tool, we use a pill. Doesn't solve the problem. Why? Because the root has not been dealt with, energetically dealt with. We're not actually come to completion of that thing from the past, which when dissolved and the resistance goes away, it does not exist anymore. And the final one, which is critical in order to actually move through this, is new. Okay. New meaning the new life that you are choosing to have, that you are committed to. Because once you actually get attached to that in a good way, and you're actually saying, this is what I want to have a healthy, communicative relationship with my partner, for example, then that's going to guide you to do the certain things to be able to shift you. A big reason for porn addiction is the inability to express needs, the inability to express what I want, because there is a fear of loss often. And when there is a fear of loss, or someone going away, or them not approving, or them thinking that this desire is, something weird, when we don't want to speak up and share that, then we're going to go somewhere else to get that need net, that dopamine hit. But when we can actually start to express ourselves, become emotionally intelligent, right? Start to be able to communicate with one another, then what happens is that then the needs can be met, for example, in the relationship. Now, that's not the only reason for an addiction, but many times in my experience, it's communication, it's the ability to express authenticity. And the trouble with a lack of authenticity and the difference between falsehood and truth is that it actually takes away our power. When we're not being honest, we're not being authentic, we lose power. And when we lose power and we lose energy, we become anxious and more stressed. And when we're more stressed and when we're more anxious, we're going to need that dopamine hit. We're going to need that energy drink more. We're going to need that cigarette. So what my job is to fill someone up, right? By going inward and learning how to do that. We're not taught that at school. We're not taught that in college. We're not taught that in the business training, but it changes worlds. And actually, when you get your power back, when you are in your power, you're able to move so much more. You're able to shift so much more. And then when you're shifting and you're moving and you're in action, you're not going to want to have these addictions because you know they're stopping you, they're limiting you, they're pulling you down, you're draining your energy. Okay. Very, very important. So I wanted to share this video because porn addiction is a taboo. It shouldn't be. I was recently with 2,300 men, and many of the blocks on the men's back, these burdens that people had, porn, porn, as well as fear of failure, all of these things. Now, just understand they all intertwine. When we have fear, that's also going to manifest in an addiction, right? When we have an addiction, that's also going to impact something else. Once we can start to create these and create the missing links, what happens is you deal with one and you deal with another, right? You deal with one and others start to shift and move out the way. And then you start to live differently. You start to feel alive. You don't have these things which are dragging you down, sending you into a mental spiral. Then you make stupid decisions in your business and you're also not focused and you think the focus is just an ADD, right? It's not. There's so many other things going on. Depressed is the need for deep rest from the character that we're playing in the world. And oftentimes we're not being who we truly want to be. And it takes true strength and true courageousness to hold our hand up and say, this is what I'm going through. This is what's real for me. And I want to change it. And I want to deal with it. So the other thing I just want to share, which is if you are a partner of someone who has, and you sense that they have an addiction and you want to be more intimate and you want to create this connection because you feel things are becoming distant and you want them to become connected, then what I would say, and what I would know to be true for myself, is that you want to create a pre-frame. Now, a pre-frame is setting up the conversation, because if you just come in and you say, are you this? Are you that? What's going to happen is the body is going to shut down. If you want to get an honest answer from someone, you need to create safety within that conversation. Okay. So if you want to bring up, hey, and you want to find out if your partner is watching porn, and you actually want to have a healthier relationship with them, then you need to pre-frame that I'm going to bring up a topic and this is really hard for me to share, but also I just want you to know that if you share honestly the answer, I'm not going to be blank, and actually honor that. Now, if you are, then share what is actually going to happen and really think about that yourself, but don't set a pre-frame and say that you're going to create a safe environment for honest discussion, authenticity. And then when you hear something that you don't want to hear, then you do the opposite of what you said you weren't going to do. That's not fair, right? So this whole communication thing, this whole addiction thing, oftentimes we don't know how to deal with it. Once we do, you really start to create a lot of power in your life. Now, if you're someone that is going through porn addiction or any addiction that you think is stopping you in your business or your life, your relationship, send me a message. Just send me a message and just be honest. Just write, hey, I watched the video and this is, and just whatever you're feeling, start to express that, because that is just an act of courage. And I'll move you through and I'll help you to get your power back, because I want you to feel alive. I want you to feel alive in your relationship, in your business, and to get what you deserve. Because at some level, the reason maybe why you're watching this is because you don't want to have it in your life, and you're destined for something which you see in your future that's maybe limiting you now through the actions and the behaviors and the habits that you've created, not through fault of your own, but maybe things just in your past or your past experiences that have caused you to need this fix. I'll see you very soon. Take care.